Sunday morning. Some of you roll in here. That was ugly. That was ugly. A little weather right now off a 24-hour bender in Vegas. Got back late last night. Getting ready for some football. That was easily the worst coached half of Jack Del Rio's tenure so far as the Raider head coach. The penalties, the challenge play, which made zero sense. Why the Raiders challenge early in the game when Humphrey stepped out of bounds made no sense. And then for Del Rio not to understand on Olawale's big catch that he took down to the 3 or 4 yard line, the entire offense had to run 60 yards. Derek clearly struggles when they have big chunk plays with the play clock. Derek is not great with the play clock just to begin with. They often kind of flirt right on the line of getting plays off just when they're running normal offense. But on that play for anyone, when you have to go 60 fucking yards all the way down the field, first off, you're 5 offensive linemen, that's a long way for them to run. Everyone's tired. The head coach has to be watching the play clock, and when it gets to about 2 and you realize they're barely even lined up, call the timeout. You cannot take a delay game in that situation. You cannot do it. There's no point. You have multiple timeouts. It's not like you don't have a timeout. Call the timeout. What is he doing? Is he looking at butterflies in the sky? He never calls a timeout in that situation. It really is mind-boggling. I do not understand it. You can say it's on the quarterback, you can say it on the offense, that's fine. It is then the head coach's job, because they're on the same team, to bail them out when they're in that situation. People fuck up. It happens. But the coach should be there. That's why you pay the guy, to call the timeout in that situation. And then you don't get the dumbest delay of game penalty possible. You cannot get a delay of game penalty when you just got inside the 5 yard line on a 60-yard catch when you haven't sniffed the red zone all game. You cannot take the penalty there. It cannot happen. But it can to your offense because they're not paying attention. So what do? You go like this to the referee. You should be standing next to him. It's inexplicable. I do not understand it. It's mind-boggling. And I swear to God, it happens to the Raiders nonstop. So Del Rio should be cognitive of when your quarterback and your offense gets in that situation, you're paying attention, and you can call the timeout. It's not that complicated. 10 penalties in the first half. The NFL record since 2000, thanks Josh Dubow of the Associated Press, is 13 by the Raiders. And conspiracy theory guy with, stuff on his head that thinks the Raiders are constantly getting screwed, every single one of those penalties was the right penalty call. And a couple of them, their own penalties wiped out other penalties. They'd have multiple penalties on a play. They had to commit probably 25 penalties in the first half. They only accepted 10 of them. It's a joke. The league doesn't hate Marky Boy. The league doesn't give a shit about Al Davis anymore. No one cares. These penalties are because you're an undisciplined football team. Again, back to the head coach. That was an embarrassing first half for Jack Del Rio. Bad. That is, you're not making the playoffs if you play like that. Because number 4, 89, and Crabtree can only bail you out so many times. The Raiders have 1/3 of their team is really good, and they can bail them out. And today the penalties killed them in the first half. In Crabtree, you can't throw the ball in a dude's face like that. That's the easiest penalty to throw. They constantly do dumb shit. Like that would not fly in New England. You cut someone on Monday morning, you fire someone. Like you have to eventually draw the line in the sand and say, we will no longer stand for these dumb-ass penalties. Because they are easily the most undisciplined good team in the league. And you can give me that the Seattle Seahawks led the league in penalties 3 or 4 years ago. That doesn't parallel this situation in any sense. They have nothing in common. Nothing. I watch those teams, I watch this team, and they have they're nothing alike. Not alike at all. Zero alike. They represent each other. I don't think they have really one parallel. Not one. So you can argue that, teams can lead the league in penalties and still make the playoffs. I bet if we went through most shitty teams, lead the league in penalties, especially because the Raiders have led the league in penalties, most of these last 15 years. But that was just a terrible first half for Jack Del Rio. To me, the biggest problem, the penalties clearly, he can't control it anymore. It's snowballed into a situation where every single game you expect them to get double-digit penalties. But they have 10 penalties in the first half, where really they could have more, because like I said earlier, some of the penalties canceled the other penalties out. I mean, it could have been 13, 14 penalties. That's on the head coach. But to not call the timeout in that situation is just bad. It's as bad as it gets from the head coaching standpoint. Yes, it's on the quarterback. Yes, it's on the offense. But that's why you stand there, because you on offense do nothing. You don't call the plays. You don't know the plays. You just challenge plays and call timeouts. That is your job as the head coach when you're not the offensive guy. You challenge plays and you call timeouts. And you call timeouts when they are in a predicament, when they are in a tough spot. That situation, when you know that Derek struggles with the play clock, you have to call the timeout. You have to call the timeout there. There's just no way around it. To not call the timeout, to not even try to call the timeout, to not be running down. You see it with good coaches all the time. They're sprinting like this, and then they're going like this. He was just standing there talking to someone. Like, are you not watching the play clock? What are you doing? I don't get it. I just do not understand what he's doing in that situation. Because that just can't happen. I'm not trying to overreact or give some hot take. It's pretty simple. I'm actually pretty hungover from 24 hours in Vegas. But that can't happen. That's just bad of a coaching move as you'll see all game long. And there are a lot of bad coaching moves all Sunday. But I would dare anyone to find me something stupider that can top that. Because I don't think you will. That won't be topped. And that's the difference in a game that Jameis is trying to give you this thing. Balls are floating on them. They're not playing great on offense. Tampa's not even playing that good. They had a couple good drives where Jameis made some plays. But you should be down 10-7 at half, then you get the ball. Sean Smith, to me, looked like he dislocated his elbow or dislocated his shoulder. I would be pretty scared if something serious happened there. And luckily the Tampa Bay's not very good because they're keeping you in this game, and the Raiders will probably win. Because, again, the quarterback and the two wide receivers bailed them out of everything. They're kind of, to me, like the Houston Rockets with high character guys and not many slapdicks of the NFL. They're great on offense because they can score touchdowns. Like, in any given quarter, they can score 3 or 4 touchdowns. And they are atrocious on defense. Like, they don't even try. Occasionally, Khalil will make a play. But constantly, their DBs get smoked. They give up easy plays. Guys are running all over wide open. I mean, offensive coordinators must just have the easiest week when you go against the Raiders. Because clearly their coverages never match up against your route combinations. Constantly their coverages, the dude's not in the right spot, the guy's playing the wrong leverage, the guy's looking the wrong way. Like, that is coaching. That is your job, to know what they're going to call, or to have a good idea what they're going to call. And it looks like every week the Raiders have no idea what the other team is going to call. Like, it is crazy how much better Bill Musgrave is at coaching offense. And I'm not even talking the execution. I'm just talking the variety of looks he can do. He can do any single run game. He does everything Chip Kelly does, but then he also does everything an Andy Reid or an old school West Coast offense would do. Run power, bring in the fullback, or what Jim Harbaugh used to do in San Francisco, and play smash mouth football. Or he can spread you out. Like, it is stupid how Bill Musgrave and the offense, just how much better coached they are than the defense. And I'm not talking about execute. I'm just talking about before the snap of the ball where guys are lined up, the variety of stuff they can do. They never on defense have a look where you go, wow, that's kind of crazy, or whoa, that's interesting. Reggie Nelson is just terrible. Reggie Nelson sucks. He's not any good, but I don't know who you're going to bench him for. You're stuck. Khalil's the defensive leader. He's the captain for a reason. I mean, he's the best player probably on the team. I was never on the Latavius bandwagon, but Latavius is fine. Their run game's fine. Again, their offense is not the problem. It should be 10-7. You're on the road. Most teams do not play well on the road, especially West Coast teams. But they've stayed there, so there's no excuse. Last I saw the Cardinals game, the Cardinals were getting boat raced by the Panthers. Because your time clock. I'm a California guy. If I fly to Florida, my time clock's all messed up. They've been staying there for, we've heard on the broadcast 15 fucking times. Yeah, we know they've stayed there all week. We know. Stop telling me that on the broadcast. Talk about the football stuff. I know they've stayed there all week. We get it. That, to me, them staying there all week is no excuse to come out flat. Because you shouldn't be tired. You're used to your time clock. Your body's adapted. But when you've only been there a couple days, I do understand why West Coast teams struggle. It makes sense. Anyone that's flown, whatever area you come out to, even when you go east to west, it just messes you up. But when you've been there for 12 days, there's no excuse to come out flat. And it just looks like they're kind of sleepwalking. You can't sleepwalk when you stayed there 13 days. Like that excuse doesn't fly today. It does not fly. That's part of staying there, is you should have been awake and ready to roll. Hugh Jackson's way better than Chip Kelly. It's not even close. Harbaugh don't need the money. Yeah, the Harbaugh conversation, if they could ever get Jim Harbaugh, speaks for itself. What's the Seattle score right now? I don't know. I'm not feeling great about this game if I was from a Raiders perspective, but I don't feel great about Tampa either. I think they're kind of a two-man show. Basically throws to Mike Evans every other play. Shepard's not bad. Their running game stinks. Jaquiz, he made some plays last week against the 49ers, but you or I would have ran for yards against the Niners. Mike Evans is an absolute monster. Mike Evans is incredible. Mike Evans is open every play. Jameis just needs to throw it a little lower. Evans better than Coop? Yeah. Mike Evans is a better player than Cooper. Okay, game starting. I don't know. I'd say 50-50. Game's wide open. You need a touchdown on this first drive.